What is the grossest hygiene issue you overlooked in an ex? Didn't floss, wouldn't trim his pubic hair or toenails unless I reminded him, and sometimes would skip brushing his teeth at night. When I asked him to do those things without being reminded, he acted like my standards were impossibly high. I did eventually manage to convince him to wash his face with more than just water though. He also would occasionally leave poop stains in the toilet bowl because he couldn't remember to check and use the toilet brush after he finished. He was also emotionally unavailable and passive-aggressive. I can't believe I put up with that for so long. Never washing his hands. He wouldn't wash them after taking a shit. He would tell me his one shower a day was when his hands got washed, and that was it. He went hunting once, cut up all of the meat in our kitchen which I had to clean and sanitize after he was done cutting, and refused to wash his hands. After handling raw meat, he threw a tantrum when I told him to wash his fucking hands. About halfway through the next day or so, he couldn't understand why he started to feel sick. This is gonna be nasty but I had an ex who would scratch his nuts and sniff his fingers. I guess that's a pretty common thing for guys. The problem was, he'd get acne under and around his nose and he wouldn't wash his hands for a while after he'd do that. I had another one who when I gave him a blowjob, he had smacked me around the head of his dick. It was dark so I wasn't 100 sure at the time but realized after the deed was done. He didn't smell so another reason why I didn't GTFO. Somehow the man could not take a piss without dripping on the floor. He said the toilet was too low, and affected things, neutral face. I kept bitching and bitching and bitching, and eventually he started peeing in my sink. Finally, he started sitting to pee, and told me I broke him. He also thought water showers were enough to clean himself, but claimed to be OCD about cleanliness. As in, I could never keep the house clean enough to his standards. Not an ex, unfortunately. My current doesn't always brush his teeth and the smell is, well, not great. He's also prone to visible buildup when he doesn't brush, so sometimes I just can't kiss him. It grosses me out majorly, crying face. Telling him as much doesn't help BTW. I've tried every possible thing to try and motivate him to brush for, like, years but I'm his wife, not his dentist or his mommy. He needs to figure his shit out like an adult Lamau. Dated a really hot dude once who refused to floss at 38 years old and never washed his teeth in the AMBC his breath didn't smell it did. He also raw dogged the same boxers for an MF week when we went to Mexico for a vacation and would take multiple shits a day not washing his ass after with the same boxers to sleep in same sleeping shorts. This was the first time we met also, we met on Bumble. He lives in Mexico and I live in the States. Foot fungus. He would reuse the same nasty, crusty socks until he wore holes in them. Same shoes weeks in a row until he wore them down. It's not because he didn't have socks and shoes. He just reached for whatever was closest and when he took them off the night before, he would roll his socks into a ball and stuff them into his shoes. So the next day, there were his shoes with socks in them so fuck it, put them on again. It wasn't necessarily a hygiene thing but when my ex would allow his mustache beard to overgrow sometimes when we would kiss his mustache hair would go in my nose and poke me and it hurt and I did not enjoy kissing him when his hair was overgrown. I never told him it bothered me so it's not his fault or anything. I didn't want him to feel bad or get insecurities. But that is why I will now refuse to date a guy with facial hair. Not the worst on here but my ex didn't wear deodorant. He claimed he stopped in high school because he didn't need it. He did. Eventually I had to tell him he needed to start putting it on, especially in summer. Also high school ex I'm assuming had poor hygiene. We never had sex thank goodness but I went over to his house once and he actually refused to let me into his room because of how filthy it was. I had to tell my ex when to shower because he couldn't smell himself or consider it routine whatsoever. We were in our late 20s. He called me lazy at the end of our relationship. I still get mad at myself for that. Mental or physical health reasons never bothered me, I never think about it, but he was a fully capable, actively social person. He just really never learned personal responsibility. It's about balance. I couldn't find a way to tell him that after a long day he needed to take a shower because he had stinky dick. I didn't want to shower because I always took one before a date. And take one in the morning too. His dick was always stinky on dates. It felt so disrespectful but he would cook me dinner and do all of the dating shit. But you expect me to suck stinky cock? We broke up. I dated this guy who had a really crusty gross belly button. He was otherwise clean. He'd come and visit me with his dog. The dog was very old and stinky. There was always a yeasty stinky stink left over when the guy and the dog left. I thought it was the dog. Until one time, He came without the dog and I realized the stink was coming from him. From the belly button, I would frequently hear my ex blowing his nose at night in bed. He always said it was into a t-shirt. Thought that was gross, but whatever. Then when I moved out I discovered he was actually blowing it into his hands and wiping it onto the back of the fabric headboard of my bed. His side was covered in so much disgusting crusty snot. I left it there. Fuck trying to clean that. Guys, I need help. I'm reading through these comments and realizing I'm the one in the relationship with the hygiene issue that my partner might just be putting up with. I don't shower nearly often enough. I freshen up with baby wipes and deodorant etc., but I really let my hygiene go. My parents were never strict with this thing, so I don't prioritize it. Help. On more than one occasion publicly announced the benefits of picking your nose, eating the boogers. Only brushed his teeth if he was leaving the house a couple times a week or if he wanted to get laid. Every single morning. Started with a dramatic corking gag fist, makes me want to throw up just thinking about it. Never trimmed his fucking foot talons. Ex I was with for 12 years refused to see a doctor no matter how nicely I talked to her about her vaginal odor and taste. Her pH balance was off and she always took it poorly because of teasing from her sister and an ex-stepmother. I'm remarried now. Finally got to experience vaginal without odor and taste and it's brilliant. OMFG. My ex would take out his daily contacts and just leave them where he took them out at my place. On the table, counter, I'd leave. He never threw them away. 6 months after we broke up, I found one of his contacts on the floor, and I was so triggered. I should have known we would never work out, coming from a guy with super thorough hygiene. This bothered me a lot. My ex almost never brushed her teeth before going to bed. Sometimes she wouldn't shower every day. But the hygiene issue that grossed me out the most is that I would find a shit stain in her panties sometimes. Dated someone for a bit that I literally could smell her vagina still on my dick after 5 showers and washes with a soap-laden cloth. She reeked so bad. Was so bad I thought I had an infection or something. Doctor said I was completely fine. It wasn't a long relationship. Exophymosis and could never retract his foreskin to clean it. Damn, did that shit stink. Sometimes things would come out of it into my mouth. Dirt. He was also a filthy human in general. Bad hygiene all around. Absolutely vile. Can't believe this guy cheated on me. His bathroom. It was covered in every inch with dirty toilet paper. He never cleaned it up. I eventually left him after his apartment was stinking and getting more and more covered with shit. Before I left I told him 2 things. Get a life in a trash can. So many people complaining about their partners stinking, not brushing their teeth, smelling of piss down there. What's worse is you all still perform oral and other shit with them. Come on guys, hygiene should be part of the interview process. My ex used to pick at the skin on his thumb and palm with his teeth. It was always red and raw and rough and he'd leave little pieces of skin all over the place. I was 18 at the time and dumb, but I shudder thinking about it now. She would pick her nose and then eat it. We had cameras in the house to watch the animals when we were away and I'd catch her numerous times doing it on camera. Inspecting the booger first and then eating it off her fingernail. He didn't clean his ears. Like ever. I know Q-tips are bad and not supposed to go near ears, but the first time I offered to clean them for him and pulled out brown wax I almost puked. Other than that, he was fine. He brushed his teeth but he had a layer stuck at the bottom of his teeth and he refused to find a way to clean it. It eventually led to me not wanting to kiss him ever along with his habit of eating onions. My ex didn't brush his teeth in the mornings before work. He used to just rinse his mouth unless we were going to an event. Which is gross, but I was able to overlook it because he brushed them at night. He had the worst smelling feet. I would have to spray Lysol on them when he took his shoes off. I've never smelled anything like it. I bought things for his shoes and nothing ever helped. She didn't always shower every week. Also, I'm not sure when she changed underwear because I'm fairly certain she didn't change underwear every day and only did so after taking a shower. I could smell my ex's ass. Had to bring it up more than once. That was one of many things. I don't know why I put up with that shit. All I can think of is that I had low self-worth. Did not clean his house at all. I mean trash everywhere. No clean dishes, no spot was clear on countertops, and his bedroom was so cluttered there was only a trail clear to the bed. No nighttime routine. No washing face, brushing teeth, showering. In the morning is enough. So gross. It wasn't the only thing, but one of a few that added up to enough to dip. He was a very obese guy, but equally as charming. It was clear he couldn't wipe his butt, not even a little bit, and it didn't faze him one bit. We lasted 2 months. Lol. Athlete's feet, He didn't want to buy anything to fix it cause he liked the way it felt when he itched it. Jesus' feet smell could fill up rooms with its stench. She showered once a week, sometimes longer, and was very usual for her to go days on end without showering. Didn't change her panties or bras for weeks either. They peed the bed every night. I would sleep so close to the edge of the bed to avoid it, and my ex always reeked of piss, even after washing the blankets. Sorry to say, but ashtrays, ash, cigarette butts and smoke odors everywhere. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times, and it was pretty nasty. She had terrible breath. She was also very skinny. Looking back now, I'm pretty sure she was bulimic. I felt bad realizing that long after high school. Not an ex, but a hookup. I heard after we hooked up that she didn't shower for like 5 days and it came all over her face. I thought that was pretty gross. My ex would rip the skin off his feet and save it. He had a pile behind his nightstand and the big pieces in the drawer of his nightstand as trophies. Literally never showered. Went days before bathing but never used body wash when he was in a bath. Also never brushed teeth. I was not with him long. Smoked too much and would cough up mucus all over the interior of his loogies, all over the windshield and steering wheel. So gross. Rarely showered, no deodorant, never brushed his teeth. I think I only managed BCI. I never met him in person, so I never had to smell it. Yikes. Well, not on purpose, but when we broke up, my family told me he smelled horrible. I have zero sense of smell, so I had no clue.